You would have lost millions and millions of lives. They couldn't get it without a little rough love.
Trump said the Kurds are happy with the deal, but the president's critics say he put the Kurdish forces in danger by announcing a U.S. troop withdrawal, and that the deal essentially gives Turkey what it wanted to achieve from its incursion into Syria in the first place. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson says he's confident that Parliament will adopt the Brexit deal he reached with the European Union. Speaking after the deal was adopted by European leaders, Johnson said it was time for Britain to complete its departure from the bloc and focus on a new partnership with EU friends.
And I hope very much now that my fellow MPs in Westminster do now come together to get Brexit done, to get this excellent deal over the line, and to deliver Brexit without any more delay.
EU leaders insist there will be no more delay. They're warning there will be no fallback if the deal is defeated in the UK. The White House announced today it has chosen President Donald Trump's golf resort near Miami as the site for next year's Group of 7 summit. Global News 24 hours a day, on air and at TikTok, on Twitter. I'm Bob Moon.
Imagine being denied an apartment because of your religion, or your race, or because you have children, or a disability.
It's so wrong.
Yes, but who has the power to stop this?
You do. Each of us has the power. The law is on your side. It's illegal for landlords to discriminate because of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, or familial status. If you suspect that you have experienced housing discrimination, file a complaint with HUD immediately so we can investigate it. Fair housing is your right.
Use it.
To learn more, visit HUD.gov/fairhousing. That's HUD.gov/fairhousing. Or call 1-800-669-9777. 1-800-669-9777. A public service message from HUD in partnership with the National Fair Housing Alliance.
Why do hedge funds and other alternative managers rely on Pershing? Mark Alderati, a managing director at BNY Mellon's Pershing and head of Prime Services, explains.
In today's environment of market volatility, Pershing's Prime Services is well positioned to support the needs of hedge funds and other alternative investment managers. Whether it's customized financing or securities lending solutions, platform access, or business expansion, BNY Mellon's Pershing is a prime broker who's committed to this business and agile enough to meet your evolving demands. Pershing helps to solve the needs of clients by advocating for them, providing unwavering strength, deep supply, and award-winning service that is at the core of everything we do. Find out what sets Pershing's prime brokerage team apart.
Learn more about the unique and industry-leading solutions for hedge funds and other alternative managers offered by BNY Mellon's Pershing. Visit our website at Pershing.com. Pershing LLC, member FINRA, NYSE, SIPC.
Watford, it's chilly outside, and you're staying in with your feet up, and they can stay up. Because with Hive Active Heating, you can set the perfect temperature without even lifting a finger.
Alexa, ask Hive to boost my heating.
And by never having to heat an empty home, you could save up to £120 a year on your heating bill.
Alexa, play my Nice and Toasty playlist.
Search Hive Heating to buy now. Hive services require broadband and Wi-Fi. Terms apply.
Good. Here's a swing and a drive deep to right field. Looking up. Goodbye, baseball.
Between game-winning shots and walk-off homers, tune in on social media to discover the latest and greatest in live sports.
With the 24th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft.
From live reminders that the biggest MLB games are on the air, to recommendations of the best new sports talk shows and podcasts.
He's going to be fine. He's going to be good right away in 3 years.
Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
From the TuneIn Studios, I'm Fonseca with the Daily Sports Update. Today we have the League Championship Series, Game 5. Astros at the Yankees.
Just boiled down to making some good pitches under pressure, getting fortunate on the DD ball, playing some good defense towards the end of the ball. That
first pitch is going to be at 8:08 p.m. Eastern. Astros Yankees right here on TuneIn. You can hear it. We're getting close to the World Series. Make sure to follow MLB and to favorite your favorite team. That way you can hear all the games. It's your TuneIn Sports Update.
College football is live on TuneIn. Listen for free to games from more than 140 schools all season long.
To the 10, all the way to the checkerboard. Somebody stays on his feet and scores.
What's happening in college football this week? This Saturday, undefeated Penn State will have the whiteout in full effect as they host Harbaugh and the Wolverines. Michigan at Penn State at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Listen to every call and every game of your school all season long for free on TuneIn. Just search college to listen today.
These are the top buzzing stories on TuneIn.
This Family Feud contestant shockingly confessed that she married her student.
Hey, Rachel, what do you do?
Hi, I work at a high school, and I married my student. And
no, you was like younger back then when you met him in the 8th grade.
About
and
19.
Then, about 19, and he was 9.
Woody Harrelson on Zombieland. Double Tap. The film opens tonight.
The first Zombieland was arguably, at least in the top 3 of the funnest movies I ever made. And this one, I think, is probably going to be the funnest because it's an incredible group of people.
Here is a trending moment from last night's episode of The Masked Singer.
So I got cut loose. Yes! Pick up your Sunday shoes.
Yes! And that voice, I mean, it was smiling so big, I think you broke my Botox, so.
Those were the top stories that are buzzing on TuneIn.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
In the dictionary, a podcast is this: a digital audio file made available on the internet, typically as a series, of which new installments can be received by subscribers automatically. But on TuneIn, a podcast is this.
I'm Adam Grant, and this is Work Life, my podcast with Ted. I study how to make work not suck.
And it's defined like this.
Blackout is a suspense-filled thriller from Endeavor Audio and Q-Code.
From news, sports, to pop culture, comedy, and beyond. Define your own podcast possibilities on TuneIn. What if you could keep up with cable news even when you're on the go? With TuneIn Premium, you can listen to MSNBC live without any commercial interruptions. All of the news, none of the ads. Listen live on TuneIn Premium today.
Headlines and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at TikTok on Twitter. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. We've got 13 minutes to go ahead of the closing bell here. The S&P 500 index right at 3,000. S&P up 10 now, a gain of 0.4%. The Dow up 53, up 0.2%. NASDAQ up 35, that's a gain of 0.4%. Doubts over whether a Brexit deal can win approval whipsawed the pound, but the S&P 500 index fluctuating for most of the session right around that 3,000 level. The 10-year down 4/32, yield 1.75%, gold up 0.1%, $14.92 the ounce, and West Texas Intermediate crude up 1.3%, $54.07 a barrel. Recapping stocks higher, S&P up 10, a gain there of 0.4%. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
I'm driving in my car. I turn on the radio.
How about you let me drive?
Oh, no. Who's gonna drive you home?
Honey, please, I'll do the driving.
Drive on.
Excuse me, I want to drive.
Just drive, baby.
It's the question that drives us.
This is the Drive to the Close.
That funky music will drive us till the dawn.
On Bloomberg Radio.
All right, well, it is time for the Drive to the Close. Barry James, portfolio manager for James Investment Research, based out in Ohio, here with us in New York City today. Great to have you here in New York.
Good to be with you.
All right, so tell us about how you're looking at the market right now, because I feel like last week, Lisa, all we talked about was trade. This week, we're talking a little less about it as the U.S. and China sort of try and get together. We've got all sorts of other geopolitical things to worry about, most notably Turkey, where we saw some movement, obviously, today. Obviously, looking at Brexit and the EU and UK negotiations as well. How do you find the signal in the noise here to actually create a scenario by which you have a good investment thesis?
That's a great question. When I look at it, I'm from Ohio, and we have a lot of corn, and we have corn mazes. And you get walking in one of those and go down one path, there's impeachment. Another one, there's China. Another one, there's Iran. And there's another one, it's slowing economy.
Wow,
there's a way to break through.
Ohio corn mazes are different than the ones in New York. Carry on.
So there's a way to break through that and get to the heart of things. And there are two things that I would look at. Number one is looking at the macroeconomic environment that we're in. And we're seeing some slight improvement. And on the Bloomberg terminal, you have the economic surprise, and they're coming in about 3 out of every 4 positive. So that is a good sign that we're not going to be staying in the dumps for long. And the other side is just the momentum of the market. In spite of all that's happened and all those things in the corn maze, you just break right through and you look at momentum is still up. And that's the path that market wants to go.
I'm going to use that corn maze metaphor. I like that.
You like it? You're in a corn maze. When you walk down and there's impeachment. Yeah. It's like, kids, we hit impeachment again.
Impeachment. Wait. It's Boris Johnson.
Yeah, look at that. We've got his hair. Barry, I do want to ask you, though, when was the last time that you actually made a substantial shift in your portfolio's allocation?
Well, we are making one here recently.
Okay.
So we were about 40% in our Golden Rainbow Fund, which is actively managed, and the overall allocation is as well. So we're going up to about 50%. So it's taking time. We never jump from one extreme to the other, but we think that we're starting to get past the situation where we have to be really fearful of the market having a sharp correction here near term.
All right, so let's talk about some names. We love talking about specific stocks, and one of the ones I believe you like is Molson Coors. TAP, T-A-P is the ticker. What about that do you like?
Well, when you're in a corn maze, you get lost. It's time to have a cool one.
Yeah, exactly. You got a cold beer, you're less worried about getting lost.
Wait, which way? It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
you just
sit
down,
good.
you park down.
It's all good. You're less scared of Boris Johnson. It's fine.
You have a couple years of corn?
It's really, really, really cheap. It's trading at less than what the accountants value it for. It's trading at less than the sales of the company.
Yeah.
And I think they've retrofitted themselves for the new environment with all the craft beers and whatnot, and even getting into some cannabis stuff.
Well, I was going to say, like, a little bit of cannabis going on there, experimenting, maybe dipping their toe, maybe a little bit more than some of their competitors. And so versus an AB InBev or something like that, it's cheaper. It sounds like your main play here.
Yeah, in the industry, it's cheaper, and the earnings aren't as good as they were, but the price is down, and it's better than the last quarter, not a year ago quarter, but the last quarter.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
In Ohio, are people drinking Coors Light?
They sell it.
Right, I know, but my point is, are craft beers taking off there too, right?
Oh, huge.
Right, so my question is, don't you see this? And people like whiskey, they like whiskey and stuff like that there. Right? It's shifting away. So what do you say to people who are like, there's just sea change away from these beer companies?
Well, I would say that there's still opportunities for them to move into the craft beer market, and they are. And so maybe they can't match the local brewmeister or whatever in terms of the local, and we have a lot of local beers, I guarantee you. But I still think that they've got a strong market and a lot of money behind them, and they also have a dividend over 4%. Did I mention?
Wow,
4%?
That's interesting. So Travelers is another name you like in the finance insurance sector. Obviously, a lot of focus on the finance names this week, with the big banks coming out. Morgan Stanley, obviously surprising folks today in a positive way. What about Travelers is it that makes you bullish?
Well, there's several things. Their revenues are stateside, so that I don't have to worry about that part of the corn maze of trade or whatever. The financial sector does pretty well when the dollar is strong and interest rates are down. We've got both of those. That's providing a good source. They've been buying back shares, which maybe isn't earth-shaking news. But they're a very steady performer, and their earnings have been just kind of clockwork. So in a somewhat topsy-turvy market, we think it's a good thing to hold.
You also look at Verizon as a good buy, and I noticed that in all of your picks, or at least in Verizon and Coors, there's that dividend, right? There's that 4% dividend with the Verizon. And this is a theme that I'm seeing across the board. How concerned are you about the focus of some of your peers also on dividend-paying stocks and just how high the valuations are getting on those particular equities?
Yeah, well, I think earlier in the year or last year, dividend-paying stocks did not do well. So they're having a renaissance, if you will, certainly with the interest rates coming down. My biggest concern is, can they pay it? And I think Verizon is, 35% of their earnings are going to pay that 4% plus dividend yield. So it is a little bit of a concern. I don't want it to get too popular, but I don't think we're there yet with Verizon.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Barry James, portfolio manager for James Investment Research. He's based out in Ohio. Nice enough to spend some time with Lisa and myself here in New York City today. All right, well, we're going to get you right through the close of trading here in the U.S. And Lisa, as I take a look at the main U.S. indices, off their highs, but not too much so. The S&P up about 0.3%, NASDAQ up about 0.4%, Dow Jones holding its gain at about 0.1%. Some earnings driving it. Some of those elements that we've talked about, that we just talked about with Barry James, certainly at play here. As well as probably a little bit of optimism that the world could be calming down a little bit
today.
Maybe.
I mean, like right now we're fighting our way through the corn maze. It seems like.
I know.
Have you ever gotten lost in a corn maze?
Yeah, 100%.
I never get out of them.
Yeah.
I always have to be rescued.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
There's got to be some sort of exit door. You got to wave a flag or something.
I have the flag. I always do not lose the flag.
Yeah. That's good. That's fair. I will not go to corn maze with you.
Checks out.
All right, it checks out. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week.
The starting.
Right now, the future is being written by people like you. Creative thinkers, tech lovers, problem solvers. Are you going to stand by and watch? Well, show the world what you've got. Join others around the UK on an EY degree apprenticeship in digital and technology. And earn a salary working with exciting businesses while studying towards a degree. Don't let the future pass you by. Get involved. For more information and to apply, search EY Digital Apprentice.
It's time to do a bit of Debenhams with up to 30% off our favourite coats, knitwear and boots for the whole family and 20% off throughout home. Shop now, in-store and at Debenhams.com.
Things that get my goat, right? People pushing into queues, having no phone signal, noisy eaters, new shoes that give you blisters, people who grunt when they sit down.
There are some things that you can't change. But by filling in your census questionnaire, you can help to improve things like transport, education, healthcare, and housing. The Census 2021 rehearsal is happening now. Look out for your pack in the post. Everyone counts.
Bad hair days, being too hot, being too cold.
The nights have started to draw in. And at DFS, we know that can only mean one thing. Everyone will want to spend more time at home, getting nice and cozy. You can't beat it. That's why all our sofas are handmade to order, and many are guaranteed to be delivered in time for Christmas. So you can look forward to cozying up this winter, knowing your new sofa won't let you down. DFS.
From the TuneIn Studios, I'm Fonseca with your Daily Sports Update. Always follow me to get the latest and greatest. It's simple and easy. I'm always at Fonseca Show. Don't forget, today we've got the Kansas City Chiefs at the Denver Broncos. And kickoff's going to be at 8:20 p.m. Eastern.
Got to get the bigs playing better on both sides on the offensive defensive line. It starts there. When you win, it starts there. When you
need more information or you want to find more, search NFL for news, podcast, everything, even the games. That's your TuneIn Sports Update.
Deep left center field. A grand slam!
October baseball is here, and TuneIn Premium is your ticket to the 2019 MLB postseason. Featuring the home and away feeds for every game, TuneIn Premium delivers every call of the ALCS, NLCS, and the 2019 World Series through the voices of the local radio broadcast teams.
In the air, left field and deep. He's at the wall.
Now until a new champion is crowned, hear every play of the 2019 MLB postseason live on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
The world, 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and at TikTok on Twitter. This is Bloomberg Radio. Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at TikTok on Twitter. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. A move higher for the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ. Folks from Citigroup and Citi E for Education ringing that closing bell on this Thursday. S&P at the close up 8, closing below 3,029.98. That was a gain of 0.3%. Dow Industrials up 27, well off session highs, up 0.1%. NASDAQ up 32, a gain there of 0.4%. The 10-year on 5/30 seconds, looking at a yield of 1.75%. Doubts over whether a Brexit deal can win approval whipsawed the pound. S&P 500 index fluctuating for most of the day right around the 3,000 level, while disappointing results from IBM caused the Dow to lag the other main equity benchmark indexes. Barry James is Chief Investment Officer of James Investment Research. Moments ago right here on Bloomberg Business Week, he told us there is reason to be upbeat about the U.S. economy.
Looking at the macroeconomic environment that we're in, and we're seeing some slight improvement. And on the Bloomberg terminal, you have the economic surprise, and they're coming in about 3 out of every 4 positive. So that is a good sign that we're not going to be staying in the dumps for long.
Morgan Stanley became the latest big bank to defy expectations for weak growth. Shares up today by 1.54%. And Netflix's international performance impressed analysts. Its shares advanced by 2.5%. IBM moved lower after posting the 5th consecutive quarter of shrinking sales as weakness in the global technology services segment limited strength in the company's Red Hat business. IBM lower today by 5.5%. Juul is suspending the sale of most e-cigarette flavors in the U.S., bending to pressure from regulators. It says it will stop selling fruit and dessert flavors pending an FDA review. And Saudi Aramco has postponed the launch of the world's largest initial public offering by at least a few weeks, according to people briefed on the situation. Gold up 0.1%. Again, recapping stocks higher. S&P up 8, up 0.3%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Move around. Motion creates the motion. I feel the earth move under my feet.
You move like they do. I've never seen anyone move that fast.
All right, people, let's move like we've got a purpose.
Company's called Movers and Shakers. They cost a little more. That name cracked me up.
Bloomberg Business Week, Movers and Shakers, with Carol Mazur and Jason Kelly on Bloomberg Radio.
All right, let's do a little moving and shaking. Look at your winners and losers on the trade today. Jason Kelly alongside Lisa Abramowitz.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk some names, but let's go a level deeper on the S&P, Lisa, if you don't mind. So of the 505 names, 333 higher, 168 lower, 4 unchanged. IBM, your worst performer coming off those earnings yesterday. Womp womp.
Yeah, down 5.5%. And this comes after disappointing earnings. They would have actually had no gain if it hadn't been for a tax benefit. I mean, they really, they did not post a good result here. And this comes after their Red Hat business purchase. And it's clear that that wasn't enough to support what they had been going for.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you brought that up because I think as I read it at least, and I've been trying to synthesize a little bit of what's been coming out there, Red Hat doing pretty well, but not, as you say, well enough to sort of offset some of the legacy problems, as they say at IBM.
5th consecutive quarter of shrinking sales.
Yeah.
Not great.
That's not great.
Meanwhile, also not great. Although Netflix should have been, I shouldn't weigh in. I was surprised at the reaction. It was actually up 2.5%, and yet it had a negative outlook going forward. It actually downgraded its outlook, but it cross a pretty low hurdle.
Yeah, it was interesting to watch this in real time yesterday. John Ehrlichman was with us a few minutes after the numbers hit, and the stock went up 11% in the aftermarket, as high as 11%. It sort of came back a little bit, and there was this sense of, okay, well, maybe they're kind of holding their own amid what's going to be fierce competition, obviously from Disney being one of them. There was an interesting story. I think it was the Hollywood Reporter.
Yes, I read that. Yes, about how Disney is staking its entire future on streaming and about how they are spending all this money. Were
you looking at this exact story, this Hollywood Reporter story?
Yes.
Because we're sharing a brain today?
Yes, and they forewent $150 million of fees from Netflix saying, we're going to withdraw all of our content from your platform.
Peace, we're doing this ourselves.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so, the question is, to me, once that actually gets unrolled, which will be next year, really in earnest, we'll start getting the numbers from that. How much will that eat into Netflix's profitability and their subscriber base?
I want to bring you a quick headline crossing the Bloomberg right now. Energy Secretary Rick Perry tells President Trump he will step down. Now, this is notable, especially because Secretary Rick Perry, former governor of Texas, of course, has been involved in a lot of the turmoil, the scandal of late related to the Ukraine. His name has been invoked. He has made some commentary about how he was involved in some of those discussions with former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, who is the president's personal attorney. So Rick Perry just reiterating, the Energy Secretary, that he will step down from that post.
And just to sort of give you more detail on that, Energy Secretary Rick Perry did tell the Wall Street Journal in an article published yesterday that he reached out to Rudy Giuliani, on President Trump's request to discuss corruption in Ukraine, to try to help arrange this meeting with Ukraine's top energy official. So, this certainly raises a question. Is he leaving because he is getting pressure, perhaps, from the president at this point?
Or is he leaving because he cannot keep going on in terms of going along with everything that the administration is saying? More to come, I am sure, on that story. Let's get a check on volatility. The VIX up a touch, up about 1%, closing at 13.82. This is Bloomberg.
All right, Dave, you're up. Hi, my name is Dave.
Wilson, where are you? Wilson!
Just what do you think you're doing, Dave?
We're going for a price on Wilson.
Open up the door, it's Dave.
Who?
Dave.
Hey, Mr. Wilson. Dave Wilson back with us with his stock of the day. I love it when there's just a very straight ahead symbol, just tells you what they do. This is pool.
Indeed it is.
They work on pools.
Well, something like that, Jason. They provide the supplies for people who work on pools.
Okay.
It's Pool Corporation. And they're a distributor of supplies and equipment for swimming pools. They also work with fencing, outdoor furniture, and other pool-related products. Pool Corporation was founded in 1993 and went public in 1995. Now, the company shares trading under that ticker Pool rose for 11 straight years from 1996 to 2006. Then they suffered a 2-year decline during a U.S. bear market. And since then, Pool Corp has put together what's about to become another 11-year string of gains. This year's advance may be the biggest of all, as the stock has climbed more than 50%. Now, Pool Corp set a record today after posting third quarter results. Earnings surpassed analysts' average estimate in a Bloomberg survey after coming up short in the second quarter. Revenue came out ahead for the first time in 4 quarters. And on top of that, the company raised its full-year profit forecast. You put that all together, Pool Corp shares were up as much as 13.7% after the figures were released. Now, they gave back some of those gains. Nonetheless, they closed higher by 6.1%, and that was the stock's biggest advance since February of last year.
Wow. I'm just looking, the stock's up 43% for the year. It's good to be in the pool business.
Is it? I feel like, are more people moving to houses with pools? Do you have a pool?
I do not.
Do you have a pool?
No.
I'm just wondering.
But then again, we don't live far enough out in the suburbs necessarily to have pools either.
Bob Moon doesn't have a pool, but other people somewhere in America have pools, and apparently they need pool supplies.
And they're buying a lot of them.
They are.
Pool.com is doing great.
It's not every day you see a stock with an 11-year advance and then headed for another 11-year advance.
There you go. All right. Dave Wilson, thank you very much. I feel like we learned something about pools today, Lisa. You were skeptical, but here we are.
I wasn't skeptical.
Oh, no,
I was
never
excited.
Skeptical. Excited. Oh, I mistook your skepticism for excitement. All right. Let's get to Bob Moon. He's got your World National Headlines. Hey, Bob.
This pool table count? Turkey agreed to a temporary pause of military operations in Syria that could be extended if Kurdish fighters leave the border region. That accord was announced by Vice President Mike Pence in Ankara.
Part of our understanding is that with the implementation of the ceasefire, the United States will not impose any further sanctions on Turkey. And once a permanent ceasefire is in effect, the president has agreed to withdraw the economic sanctions that were imposed.
Some Turkish officials, however, are denying this is a ceasefire, but merely a pause in Turkey's military operation. Donald Trump's Doral Golf Resort in Miami will be the site of the Group of 7 Industrial Nations Summit next June. Bloomberg's Irv Chapman reports.
The announcement was made by White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney, who said the Trump organization agreed to provide the 900-acre multi-building facility with no profit margin.
It was millions of dollars cheaper by doing it at Doral than it was at another facility, and that was roughly 50% savings. Of the 12 places that we looked at, this is the best place to have it. We're going to have it there, and there's going to be folks who will never get over the fact that it's a Trump property. We get that, but we're still going to go there.
Mulvaney said whether to restore Russia's Putin to the group is up for discussion, but President Trump has the right to invite him if he chooses. On Capitol Hill, Irv Chapman, Bloomberg Radio.
2 businessmen have pleaded not guilty to conspiring with associates of Rudy Giuliani to make illegal campaign contributions. David Correa and Andrei Kushkushkin made federal court appearances today in Manhattan. Global News 24 hours a day, on air and at TikTok, on Twitter. I'm Bob Moon.
You can't be the only one who spends time examining angles.
This sort of mini deal, what would it look like?
Considering possibilities.
From a credit perspective, this is good news.
Planning for eventualities.
This company really has to get back on a growth track.
You're right. The others are here.
General Electric is such an interesting story.
Bloomberg Markets with Lisa Abramowitz and Paul Sweeney. Weekday mornings at 10 Eastern. On Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Hi, we're the Goo Goo Dolls. We're fortunate that our daughters have what they need to grow and learn. But that isn't the case for nearly 13 million kids in the U.S. that struggle with hunger.
Childhood hunger is a heartbreaking reality that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and provides it to families and children in need.
You can help kids in need in your community by visiting feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council. Join us in New York City on November 21st as Bloomberg Pursuits convenes the 2nd annual The Year Ahead Luxury. Speakers include Jennifer Hyman, CEO Rent the Runway, Alessandro Bogliolo, CEO Tiffany & Company, Robert A.M. Stern, renowned architect. Supporting sponsor, Diamond Producers Association. Participating sponsor, St. Regis Hotels and Resorts. For more information, go to BloombergLive.com/TYA Luxury. Invitation code RADIO.
Hope you enjoyed your meal. And I just want to say, he's lucky to have a brother like you.
Lucky? Caring for my brother is far from easy. But he's a part of me, like my arms and legs, so I'll be his. No time for tired. Nothing can disable this love. He needs me, but I'm the lucky one, even though I need help now and then.
If you're caring for a loved one, visit aarp.org/caregiving for care guides and community. Support for your strength. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
In-depth analysis, concise reporting, need-to-know global business news. Around the world and across the markets, Bloomberg connects the dots for decision makers. Stay on top of today's headlines. Follow big breakthroughs in tech. Understand the latest political issues. See how the world's wealthiest are spending their money. Track what's happening in the markets, and much more. Subscribe today to Bloomberg, the global standard for business reporting. Get it all at Bloomberg.com/subscriptions. Europe was born about 200 million years ago when the supercontinent Pangaea began breaking apart. And today,
Germany already is in a much weaker position.
There's a lot of problems building up there for your country.
change happens faster now.
How are you reading Euro stocks at the moment?
Keep up.
The CEO speaking exclusively to Bloomberg.
Bloomberg Daybreak Europe. Weekdays at 1 a.m. Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
To buy your home, you became a house hunting ace, learned about loans, scoured neighborhoods, and asked the right questions. Now you're queen of your castle. If you manage that, you can get your retirement plan on track. Visiting aceyourretirement.org can help. With 401k tips and smart saving strategies, you'll feel empowered to own your retirement like you own your home. Go to aceyourretirement.org. Because when it comes to clearing financial hurdles, you're an ace. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Asset managers who seize change to launch new strategies, add distribution channels, or exploit new technology to re-engineer the investor experience are often rewarded. However, in an industry paralyzed with complexity, few act with agility or decisively. Few run their business strategically. Yet, the most competitive managers in the market know, with the right partner and a flexible operating platform, you can. Go boldly toward change with SEI Investment Manager Services.
Determination and operational strength are both essential factors for growth in asset management. I'm Steve Meyer, President, Head of SEI's Investment Manager Services Division. We know that disruptive forces create opportunities around the world. If you see potential in change, our industry specialists will maximize SEI's integrated platform of data and risk management, global investment operations, compliance support, and investor services to position your asset management business for success. Come grow with us.
With SEI Investment Manager Services, you lead the charge in a competitive marketplace. Learn more at SEIC.com/seize change.
The market's in focus every business day. The P&L Podcast with Paul Sweeney and Lisa Abramowitz.
Are there some sectors that you want to have more or less exposure to?
What's behind this engine of gains?
Analysis of the day's Wall Street action.
The U.S. market looks relatively safe.
From Bloomberg Intelligence, Bloomberg Opinion, and influential newsmakers.
Ward McCarthy joins us right now.
P&L with Paul Sweeney and Lisa Abramowitz. Listen today on Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, or subscribe on Apple Podcasts.
Business is constantly evolving. Is your financial printer evolving to keep ahead of the curve? At Command Financial, we are redefining financial printing by providing industry-leading expertise, leveraging technology, and honing processes and best practices. Every day, Command helps SEC registrants, as well as members of their working groups, including securities attorneys and investment bankers, prepare, file, and disseminate regulatory and disclosure documents, such as registration statements, M&A documents, and mutual fund prospectuses and reports. Command provides a full range of services to help you effectively complete your deal, meet your disclosure requirements, and achieve your shareholder communications objectives. Visit our website at commandfinancial.com and learn how we're evolving, not only with the times, but also with your business requirements. Command Financial, redefining financial printing.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and TikTok on Twitter. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet repeating our top story. Two people familiar with the matter say Energy Secretary Rick Perry has notified President Trump that he will soon be leaving the post. The Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all advancing today. S&P 500 index ending the session below 3,000 at 2997, up 8 points. That was a gain of 0.3%. The Dow higher by 23 points, up by 0.1%. NASDAQ up 32, a gain of 0.4%. 10-year down 4/32 at yield 1.75%. Gold up 0.1%, $14.91 the ounce, and West Texas Intermediate crude oil up 1.3%, $54.05 a barrel. Again, recapping here, stocks higher, S&P up 8, up 0.3%. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Charlie, thanks so much. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week right here on Bloomberg Radio. All right. Didn't expect to see or hear some Chicago, deep cut Chicago there on a Thursday afternoon, but a big surprise, it felt like, from Morgan Stanley this morning as they joined the parade of big banks releasing earnings. Sri Natarajan is here with me finance reporter for Bloomberg, covering the biggest of the big when it comes to Wall Street. So what'd you make of what you heard from Gorman and the boys?
No, I mean, like they said on the call, this was their best third quarter in over a decade. So clearly they were happy with it. They hit it out the park across their three main divisions, the three main business lines: as trading, investment banking, wealth management. The key thing to remember here really is every single bank, this was a clean sweep where every single bank beat analyst expectations. Going into this earnings season, we were dealing with fairly dour analyst estimates, and everyone did better than that. And for Morgan Stanley, it was particularly good because they sailed past those estimates, and that's a sweet win, especially for their traders, because last quarter they were leading from the bottom.
Right.
So in a quarter where everyone was doing well, for them to actually come out on top, that must be a bit of sweet redemption.
Right. And so where is Morgan Stanley sitting right now in kind of the Wall Street, especially the bulge bracket ecosystem? Because you go back a ways and it was Goldman versus Morgan Stanley. JP Morgan obviously has come on in a huge way. I'm taking a very broad brush here over a long period of time. But Morgan Stanley seems to be really coming back into the mix. Do I have that right?
No, that's absolutely fair. Look, as for JP Morgan, absolutely. When it comes to the core Wall Street focused businesses, that is trading and investment banking, for the longest time we've always thought about Goldman and Morgan Stanley, but JP Morgan is entering a lot more of those conversations. In terms of where Morgan Stanley sits, undoubtedly the leader of the pack when it comes to equities trading. Yeah. They've held that title for a few years now and managed to hold on to that position again, extended that a little bit. And this quarter, their performance was really driven by big gains in fixed income trading. I think it was either comparable to Goldman or even better than Goldman. So that's a big win for them, because Goldman obviously is a much better traditional fixed income trading powerhouse that has fallen off its peak in recent years, and Morgan Stanley is managing to go toe-to-toe with them. So that definitely is the case. When you look longer term, if you look over the last 10 years under the leadership of CEO James Gorman, the firm has also looked to sort of expand its, change its direction, pivot in a way that makes it more reliable, offers investors a steady Eddie business, which is focusing on wealth management, investment management, and that is responsible for about half of the firm's revenue. And that is fairly steady quarter after quarter after quarter, and investors like that, and that's the part of the business that Morgan Stanley wants to continue to focus on and grow while they try and hold on to their top 1, 2, 3 position in on Wall Street.
Right. All right. Talk to me about investment banking, because I feel like investment banking is having a moment right now, maybe not in a good way, especially given everything that's going on with WeWork, with the IPO market in general, questions about M&A, questions about fees, Aramco, like all of the investment banking world, I feel like, is in a little bit of a tizzy, to use a very technical term. Where does Morgan Stanley fit into all of that?
Right, and when we were going into this earnings season, that was the major backdrop, right? You had what felt like jittery capital markets, and we were wondering how that would impact earnings. The fact is, when all the banks reported, Morgan Stanley included, investment banking results held up surprisingly well. It probably was affected, and clearly was affected, in the equity capital markets business. There were some elements of it in the debt underwriting business, but generally, overall, it held up reasonably well. Yeah. Which I guess is a bit of a surprise, because what everyone else was focusing on and what was screaming in our faces was capital markets, where you had a couple of high-profile flubs in the IPO space with respect to deals that came to market, did not trade well. You had R.E. Emanuel's Endeavor that had to pull its IPO. You had the famed, notorious office sharing startup that never really got out of the gate in terms of an IPO. So people were really worried about that, but it didn't really have a terrible impact in terms of, spillover effect across the companies. Yeah. And with respect to next quarter, they're all talking about a pipeline that looks reasonably healthy and positive.
All right. So as you sit there on the desk with your colleagues, and clearly you're looking after Morgan Stanley and Goldman, so those are pretty big names, to say the least. What's been the general mood so far? It felt like Bank of America surprised on the upside, Morgan Stanley surprising on the upside, JP Morgan obviously getting a lot of love as well. I feel like Wells Fargo, we sort of set to the side for the moment, given everything that's going on from a leadership perspective there. But what's the general mood as you and Michelle and Hannah sort of start to talk about what's going on?
Look, the proof is in the pudding. And when you look at bank stocks this week, all of them have been doing well. All of them are up. So clearly investors were happy with what they saw and are encouraged by signs. When you break it down into two broad buckets, which is the Wall Street businesses, they seem to be doing just fine. Maybe some slowdown, maybe some concern. But in the near term, there's the executives seem happy with it. And what about the Main Street businesses? Loan growth is fine. None of the executives are talking about any slowdown anytime soon. They're still talking about a healthy consumer. They are not telegraphing serious concerns about the U.S. economy.
Yeah.
And as long as that's the case, where you have a reasonably confident consumer, you have companies wanting to carry out more transactions, do more business, raise more money, sell more debt, that's a fairly acceptable heady cocktail that banks will drink all day, every day.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, that's a good place to leave it. Sri Natarajan, finance reporter for Bloomberg, looking after Morgan Stanley, Goldman, much, much more, really helping lead our finance coverage, our Wall Street coverage here at Bloomberg News. Well, coming up, we're going to get into the asset management business, talk about retirement, how people are thinking about that, especially in this market that continues to be a little bit tricky for all us investors to navigate. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week right here on Bloomberg Radio.
This is a Bloomberg Market Minute. The key stock indexes posted gains ranging from 0.1% to 0.4% in another cautious session on Wall Street. The Dow Jones Industrials rose 24 points. The Nasdaq closed 33 points higher. The S&P 500 gained 8. Shares of IBM fell 5.5% and weighed on the blue chips. Investors were disappointed over Big Blue's quarterly results. Investors were pleased over the numbers from Netflix, Morgan Stanley, and Honeywell. Shares of those companies advanced. There was a bigger than expected decline in housing starts last month. The Commerce Department reports groundbreakings for houses and apartments fell 9.4% in September. A plunge in multifamily starts more than offset a solid jump in single-family starts. Domino's Pizza is giving up on 4 foreign markets where sales have been persistently weak. The pizza chain is abandoning ventures in Switzerland, Sweden, Norway, and Iceland. Jeff Bellinger, Bloomberg Radio.
Hi, everyone. Al Roker here. As a guy with his own catchphrase, I appreciate that after 75 years, Smokey's only said,
"Only you can prevent wildfires."
But I'm filling in because there's a lot more to report. Like when it's dry or windy. Be careful burning yard waste, because wildfires can even start in your neck of the woods. Go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Are you interested in a challenging and exciting career? One where you can be part of solving complex challenges across industries and geographies. Bloomberg's ever-expanding technology, data, news, and media services foster innovation, empower clients, and offer nearly limitless opportunities for career growth. Visit Bloomberg.com/careers today to view our current job opportunities. Bloomberg LP is an equal opportunity employer. The address once again is Bloomberg.com/careers.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Find out what you need to do to prepare at gov.uk/Brexit.
Oh no. 1 kebab, 4 cabs, 3 karaoke booths.
But really?
You can't always recall what you spent on a night out. But you could map the location of those transactions on our mobile banking app. Feel in control every day. Lloyds Bank, by your side. Not available for every transaction. T's and C's apply.
Hey, you. We didn't make Nature Valley Crunchy bars so you could just sit and scoff them in front of the TV. Not when you could be enjoying them outdoors. Up here! Race it to the top! With 100% whole grain oats and delicious honey. Nature Valley Crunchy. Get out more.
You're listening to TuneIn, where you can hear all the audio you love in one place. Live NFL games, the hottest music, breaking news, and podcasts. Push play and go about your day, only on TuneIn.
At
At home or on the go, stay up to date on the latest news and political trends with Fox's full lineup of shows. Plus, when news breaks, Fox has you covered with live updates and expert analysis on the biggest developing stories. Listen to Fox News Talk anytime on TuneIn.
Deep left center field. A grand slam!
October baseball is here, and TuneIn Premium is your ticket to the 2019 MLB postseason. Featuring the home and away feeds for every game, TuneIn Premium delivers every call of the ALCS, NLCS, and the 2019 World Series through the voices of the local radio broadcast teams.
Air left field and deep. He's at the wall.
Now until a new champion is crowned, hear every play of the 2019 MLB postseason live on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today. Hey NFL fans, can't watch the game? Can't be there? We've got you covered. With TuneIn Premium, you can hear every NFL game live as it's happening, or catch it later on demand. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Here's a swing and a drive deep to right field. Looking up. Goodbye, baseball.
Between game-winning shots and walk-off homers, follow TuneIn on social media to discover the latest and greatest in live sports.
With the 24th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft.
From live reminders that the biggest MLB games are on the air, to recommendations of the best new sports talk shows and podcasts.
He's going to be fine. He's going to be good right away in 3 years.
Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations. You'll also get live commercial-free news, plus live play-by-play games from NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
College football is live on TuneIn. Listen for free to games from more than 140 schools all season long.
To the 10, all the way to the checkerboard. Somebody stays on his feet and scores.
What's happening in college football this week? This Saturday, undefeated Penn State will have the whiteout in full effect as they host Harbaugh and the Wolverines. Michigan at Penn State at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Listen to every call and every game of your school all season long for free on TuneIn. Just search college to listen today.
In the dictionary, a podcast is this: a digital audio file made available on the internet, typically as a series, of which new installments can be received by subscribers automatically. But on TuneIn, a podcast is this.
I'm Rachel Martin with David Green, and this is Up First from NPR News.
And it's defined like this.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
From news, sports, to pop culture, comedy, and beyond. Define your own podcast possibilities on TuneIn.
Broadcasting live from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119 and around the globe. The Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Business Week.
And you are listening to Bloomberg Business Week. I'm Jason Kelly here in New York City. Coming up, we're going to have a discussion about retirement, saving money, who saved it, and maybe more importantly, how they saved it. Maybe a little bit about how they're spending it. The head of the Institutional Client Group from Wells Fargo Asset Management is going to be along with me in just a minute. But first, let's get to Charlie Pellet. He's taking a look at what's happening after the close. Hey, Charlie.
Thank you very much, Jason Kelly. And I do want to begin, though, with a developing story out of Washington. According to two people familiar with the matter, Energy Secretary Rick Perry has notified President Trump that he will soon be leaving the post. Perry was one of the administration's original cabinet secretaries. The former Texas governor has recently come under scrutiny in the House impeachment inquiry over his discussions with Ukraine. Stocks climbed toward records amid a spate of mostly positive earnings reports. Big exception, IBM, down 5.5% today. That weighed on the Dow's advance. The Dow up 23, a gain of just about 0.1%. S&P 500 index spent most of the day right around the 3,000 level, ending the Thursday session at 29.97, higher by 8 points, up by 0.3%. Nasdaq up 32. That was a gain of 0.4%. 10-year down 3/32, yield 1.74%. Gold up 0.1%, 14.92 the ounce, and West Texas Intermediate crude oil up 1.4%, 54.07 a barrel. American factory output is faltering, and with that story, here's Bloomberg's Vinny Del Giudice.
The Federal Reserve reports factory output dropped in September by the most in 5 months, down 0.5%. Blame it on multiple hardships: the General Motors strike, slowing global growth, and White House tariffs. Production of autos, primary metals, machinery, and plastics all fell in September. Total industrial output, including mines and utilities, also declined. Vinny Del Giudice, Bloomberg Radio.
And again, recapping stocks higher. S&P up 8, a gain there of 0.3%, ending the day at 29.97. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Charlie, thanks a lot. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week right here on Bloomberg Radio.
You're happily retired now. Hooray for you. Happily retired now.
Well, I guess some people may be doing a little dance when they retire, but maybe fewer people than you think. And that's because maybe they haven't saved enough money, and how they save it is changing. Let's get into that with Frederick Axeter. He is the head of the institutional client group out at Wells Fargo Asset Management, based in San Francisco, here with me in New York City in our Bloomberg Interactive Brokers studio today. So great to have you with me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. So you have done a retirement study, your 10th annual, Wells Fargo's 10th annual. And I have to say, reading through some of the details of it, there are some things that really jump out, most notably how much money people have saved by generation, or in some cases not saved.
That's exactly right. I mean, we're seeing a fundamental shift in the retirement landscape, with more and more responsibility to all of us. We have to fund our own retirement. So interestingly, 86% of today's retirees are saying that either Social Security or a traditional pension plan is a primary source of income in retirement.
86%.
86%. And then that, of course, goes down dramatically for younger generations.
Yeah.
And that brings us to your question of the mismatch between savings and safety, what people have saved and what they perceive they will need to have a safe retirement. So take Generation X as an example. On average, they've saved $66,000, and they say that they will need $750,000 in order to safely retire. It's 11 times more.
Wow. So is the mismatch owing to people saying just not getting it? I mean, I have to say, and many thanks to my wife for this, and our financial planner, we're pretty maniacal about it. And, a lot of it is about just the math of, okay, save now and it grows, and hopefully with markets cooperating and things like that. But why aren't people saving? Is it that they can't, or that they just don't?
I think it's always a combination, but it's we have to kind of step back and say that most people, they don't have the knowledge or interest or time, to also save. It's difficult, but what we find is that when people have a combination of a long-term financial goal and a sense of taking action, what we call when people are in the planning mindset, extraordinary things happen. That's when you see a real change in terms of savings behavior and just success from a financial standpoint.
And so are you seeing the next generation, so I'm Generation X, are the younger generations than me saving more, less? How is it trending?
The trend is in many ways favorable. Actually, Generation X stands out as the most vulnerable generation. We're kind of sandwiched in between two systems of having a traditional defined benefit plan or auto enrollment and automatically be enrolled in plans for younger generations. So millennials, for example, they started saving 6 years earlier than Generation X. So they're better off from that standpoint. There are more of them that feel like they're on track for a secure retirement as well. Almost in every way, they're a little bit better off than Generation X.
And is that in part because companies are doing a better job, essentially sort of making it more obvious and clearer what their employees need to do?
Yes, that's exactly it. I mean, more and more companies now are saying that as soon as you start working there, you're automatically enrolled.
You don't have a choice.
Do nothing, and you still have a sense of taking action.
Right. And so what else needs to be done? What's the best single piece of advice you can give somebody if they're listening to this and they say, I'm Gen X, I'm right where you're talking about, or on the lower end? Is it just about kind of taking that first step? What do they need to do?
Yeah, that is really the answer. I mean, we find, again, this planning mindset, combination of a long-term goal and a sense of taking action. When you do that, extraordinary things happen. I mean, that's when you have more than twice the savings. You have twice as likely to say you're on track for a secure retirement. So whatever you can do is sit down, establish a financial plan, that long-term goal. Try to find ways to take action. I mean, maybe that's enroll in your 401k plan, or start saving a little bit more, start paying down debt. Right. Debt is a big problem as well. So start taking action so that it's less overwhelming.
Right. All right. Very, very good advice, and a survey worth checking out because it really sort of lays it all out very nicely. Frederick Exeter is head of the institutional client group, at Wells Fargo Asset Management, based out in the City by the Bay, San Francisco, here in New York City today. Well, coming up, we're going to talk about a different sort of investing from the endowment perspective. The Chief Investment Officer of the University of Rochester is going to be along talking about how some endowments have performed. The model not going as well as it has been this year compared to years past. We'll get to that in just a few minutes. But first, let's get to Bob Moon for some world national headlines. Hey, Bob.
Jason, President Trump today hailing word that Turkey will suspend its incursion into Syria.
This is an amazing outcome.
The Trump administration calls it a ceasefire and says all sanctions will be lifted once it's permanent. Some Turkish officials insist it's not a ceasefire, but just a pause of its assault on Kurds along its border. Yet another possible complication for the Brexit deal reached today in Brussels. The European Parliament's chief Brexit official says the EU legislature will take its time to carefully examine and approve any divorce deal, possibly past the October 31st deadline. Johnson was firm about that date as he announced the deal today.
It means that the UK leaves whole and entire on October the 31st, and it means that Northern Ireland and every other part of the UK can take part.
It's not certain the UK Parliament will approve the deal either. President Trump's chief of staff denied the U.S. aid was held up as pressure to Ukraine to investigate the role of Hunter Biden in a Ukrainian company while his father was vice president, Bloomberg's Irv Chapman reports.
Mick Mulvaney said the aid was delayed as the president demanded Ukrainian help tracking down a server for Democratic National Committee communications that was alleged to be somewhere in Ukraine.
This is a corrupt place. Everybody knows it's a corrupt place. The money held up had absolutely nothing to do with Biden. Corruption related to the DNC server? Absolutely. No question about that. But that's it. And that's why we held up the money.
Mulvaney was reminded that President Trump, in his phone call with Ukrainian President Zelensky, asked for the favor of probing the Biden connection. On Capitol Hill, or Chapman, Bloomberg Radio.
Global News 24 hours a day, on air and at TikTok, on Twitter. I'm Bob Moon.
Hey, y'all, Jeff Foxworthy here. Now, if you've ever found yourself repeating the same thing over and over for 75 years, you might be Smokey Bear.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
That's why I'm filling in for Smokey to switch things up, because there's a lot more to say. And I should know because my grandfather was a firefighter. And one of the things he taught me is that the people that love the outdoors the most are often the ones accidentally starting wildfires. Which means always BYOB. No, bring your own bucket to the campfire. And be extra careful with things like burning yard trimmings. Don't just walk away, or chances are you might be starting a wildfire. So for the love of the outdoors, go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Why has J.D. Power ranked Commonwealth Financial Network #1 in independent advisor satisfaction among financial investment firms for the 6th straight time? We think it comes down to one thing: you. Because it's your input and feedback that keeps us focused on what's most important to you and your clients and continually pushes us to be the best we can be. Maybe that's why we receive top marks in every category of the J.D. Power 2019 Advisor Satisfaction Survey. They named us #1 in client support, #1 in firm leadership, #1 in operational support, #1 in compensation,
number one in professional development support, and number one in technology support. Ready to partner with the best? Call Commonwealth at 866-462-3638 or visit commonwealth.com and feel the power. Member FINRA SIPC, a registered investment advisor. For 2019 J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com/award.
Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations. You'll also get live commercial-free news, plus live play-by-play games from NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL. Visit tunein.com/premium to upgrade.
Major League Baseball postseason is in full swing, and TuneIn Premium puts you at field level for every.
And it's a home run.
Single.
And gone.
Game.
And that gone, a home run.
With TuneIn Premium, catch every pitch of every inning of every Major League postseason game until the final out of the World Series.
0-2 pitch, little half swing, and it hit.
At home or on the road, Major League Baseball's postseason action is on TuneIn Premium.
And that ball is gone.
Upgrade today.
Want to know what's happening in right now? The latest headlines are just a tap away with Fox News Talk on TuneIn. When news breaks, get up-to-the-minute coverage on developing stories from around the world. Plus, hear all the Fox shows you watch on your TV. Listen to Fox News Talk around the clock on TuneIn.
Hi, this is Brian Weber, host of NFL First and Goal every Sunday, kicking off at 1 Eastern only on TuneIn Premium. Be sure to listen this Sunday for the ultimate football fan experience featuring